I want to turn people on to this amazing talk that you had that's online. We'll put the link to it at St. Petersburg College. It's you want to curl up with something that'll make you
Aw.
feel a spring in your step and a lot more uplifted than an hour and a half on Facebook, whatever. It's this interview or this talk that you gave at St. Petersburg College. Okay. So there are two parts. I couldn't possibly cover the whole thing, but there's two parts I do want to ask you about. So there's this part in the talk where you start telling us about what the first minutes are of the day on the International Space Station, how it starts by checking your life support systems.
Yep.
And the crossover on what we have to be concerned about on Spaceship Earth was unmistakable. So talk to us about how the day starts in these cross-checking of systems and how that slides into our Spaceship Earth concept.
No, I love it because, so this, to lead into that, I wrote this book, right, Back to Earth. And I never wanted to write the, like, here's how Nicole became an astronaut book. I mean, I love reading that about my colleagues, but for me, it was like, there's that, I didn't feel like that was the real message, right? The important thing. And so the book is really it's all about the ways we somehow have managed to live peacefully and successfully on this machine in space that are just a wonderful example for what we should be doing down here on Spaceship Earth, on our planetary spaceship. And so, we build this machine, right, to mimic. I mean, the first things we're doing to mimic as best we can what Earth does for us naturally. And we know we have to do that just to survive in that, to have the warm, fleshy ones, and to do any science, any of it, but we have to be able to survive there. And so every morning we wake up, you do the usual, go to the bathroom and brush your teeth and, have your breakfast and your bag of coffee. But one of the very first things is we check how much carbon dioxide is in our atmosphere. We check how much clean drinking water we have. We check on the integrity of that thin metal hull of the spaceship. And we absolutely are checking on the health and well-being of all of our crewmates. And we do that because we know we have to survive in that place. And then we can go on and do the science and the engineering and the work of the day in that place. It's extraordinary.
And it is just too easy to apply that to what we should be doing right here on Spaceship Earth every day.
Yeah.
Checking the CO2 levels, checking the safe drinking water amount, checking, like that is the ultimate connection between what you're experiencing up there. But there's one part of where we started today about the cupola that I forgot to ask you about that applies here. You just mentioned the thin metal hull.
Yeah.
So that thin blue line that you will run across if you read or listen to anything about space and astronauts, they will mention this thin blue line. Carl Sagan used to mention the thin blue line. Talk
Hmm.
to us about the thin blue line and the analogy with the spaceship hull.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm looking out my window right now. Very fortunate. It's a clear sky today, gorgeous. And it's just all blue. There's not even a cloud in the sky. And I look up and I still even do it to today. And I'm like, man, that just looks like it goes on forever. And it's just there doing its job for us. I never really thought about the job it's doing for us, right? And yet I know now through that view out the window, and we can know from the pictures, that have been taken from space back even before people were going to it, that blue that looks like it goes on forever is this veil thin blue line that wraps around us. And just like the metal hull of our spaceship, this thin metal hull of our
It's
spaceship,
very thin. I
it's
don't
super
think that
thin.
people
It's super
realize
thin.
that.
I'm like doing like
Yeah.
this because that's how thin it is. That is what is protecting all of us from the deadly vacuum of space. If you're on the machine, it's the metal thin line. If you're down here on our planetary spaceship, it's the thin blue line of our atmosphere. And it absolutely, what became crystal clear to me, in addition to the we live on a planet and we're all earthlings, is that thin blue line is the only border that matters, right? It's the common, it's for all of us what's in common.
And we've known this for a while. I mean,
Oh,
we don't
yeah,
even have time to go into the closing of the ozone hole,
yeah.
hole in the ozone layer, but we're about the same age. And, people do not know that we have already done big things together. Like what was it? Maybe the 70s, Nicole, 80s,
Mm-hmm.
when we realized there was this growing hole in the ozone layer and it was definitely lights out for humanity and pretty much life on Earth if it grew much bigger. And as a
Yep.
planet, we came together and we are closing, if not, I'm not sure, but almost the ozone layer is healed itself. So we are capable of this mentality of getting each other, having each other's back and just working together to solve a big problem. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, I mean, to me, that it gets to the, where we check on our CO2, our water, the whole, how, the health and well being of each of us. But what that describes is behaving like a crewmate and not a passenger. It's the total difference. I mean, it seems, yeah, crewmate, passenger, wowee, but it is huge. We need to accept that role. That's what the overview effect is about too. Is like, okay, accept your role as a crewmate and find out where your little things and your big things are that you can be doing that is going to improve life for you and for all life around you. And again, it just seems so simple, like, oh, I should just behave like a crewmate. Well, it's a big deal.
It is a big
And
deal.
it absolutely is. I think it's key to the way we can just do those things like you talked about, whether it's a hole in the ozone layer or carbon dioxide in our atmosphere or plastic in the ocean or whatever it might be. Distress in your neighborhood for some reason. I mean, by rallying as crewmates, it's amazing
Well,
what we
that
can do.
that reminds me of the second thing that
Yeah.
I just loved in that talk at St. Petersburg College. There is this moment where you show this picture in the talk of your whole entire crew floating in space as you would, and everybody is wearing a big red clown nose. And you talk about this everybody's a crewmate thing and how that went with Guy La Liberté. He's the people might know that he's the founder of Cirque du Soleil. So you can only imagine the idea person that you had right there with you. And Guy has the finances to be a part of this. What would you call it? A commercial part of supporting the space. To
Yeah.
people
So
with enough
he,
money can become crew.
yeah, if you got 40, $50 million, you can buy a seat on a rocket and go spend some time on the space station. And he did that through the Russian program and spent about 10 days with us on the International Space Station. And it was awesome having him there. I mean, definitely a person that at some point thought I would like to go to space, for whatever reason. I'm willing to fund it. But it was really cool to me to see how it wasn't just, I want to go spend 10 days in space. He had total purpose in what he was doing there. And he was on this mission about water, right? And has an organization called One Drop where it's educates, about access to clean drinking water or the lack of that, and then actually works to provide clean drinking water to places that didn't have it, using some of the technology we have in space to provide us with clean drinking water. But that picture, I love that picture because I look at it and I see the personality of every single one of the people that I was flying in space with. There's 9 of us in that picture at the time. And you see the joy, I think. You see the excitement about being there. And I think the best people, it represents the kind of the best people you want to be with, whatever team or crew you're on, work you're doing. It's like you should be having a good time. You should be enjoying yourself as you're doing important things, right? And you could tell in that picture that we enjoyed ourselves. And then at the same time, even though there's smiles and clown noses and we're floating in all different kinds of directions, I look into the eyes of every single one of those people and I trusted that when things didn't go as planned, when it was hitting the fan and the alarm's going off at 3 o'clock in the morning and we're all floating out of our crew compartments, I trusted that every single one of those people was going to have my back. And I know they trusted I would have theirs. And that personality and that professionalism, that have your back kind of thing, that's the best kind of crew you can be a part of.
And that's how we've got to think about our life on this
Absolutely.
planet. Back to the
Yeah.
Spaceship Earth analogy, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's got to be
Buckminster
like that.
Fuller, back in the 60s, Buck it might have even been 50s, I don't know. And there was some, explorer way before that who coined the term and that I can't remember and should. But that idea is so simple, isn't it? Like this is our spaceship. and the sad thing is it's almost like parenthood. You don't get the operating manual, right? It's like, you need, and we're all having to figure it out, and believe or not believe and whatever, but we all need to find that role as a crewmate.